This is Community Radio Networks. Let's get this week started. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the 29th of July today. And we now have all the information that you need to take on the day. This is Community Radio Networks, the world news read by Shabnam Modgil. Hezbollah has denied it was responsible for that rocket strike in Golan Heights that hit a soccer field, killing 12 children and young people in the deadliest single attack in Israeli territory since the 7th of October. The IDF said it had conducted airstrikes against 7 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon in response to Saturday's strike. While Israeli Defense Minister Gallant vowed to hit the enemy hard, raising fears that the Gaza conflict would spread. After this rocket attack on Golan Heights, the European Union as well as Lebanon called for an independent probe into what happened. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and the Western powers, including the US, Britain, France and Germany, condemned the attack and appealed for calm as Iran warned Israel any new military adventures in Lebanon could lead to unforeseen consequences. Israel army calling it the deadliest attack on Israeli civilians and Israel vowing retaliation against Hezbollah after blaming the Lebanese militant group for this rocket attack in the Golan Heights. And Hezbollah says it firmly denies it was behind the strike completely. Israel wants to hurt Hezbollah but not drag the Middle East into an all-out war, according to 2 Israeli officials, as Lebanon braced for retaliation after the rocket strike killed the 12 children and teens in Golan Heights. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu reportedly considering the dismissal of Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. The potential replacement is Gideon Sa'ar, head of the New Hope Party. This decision follows Gallant's recent directives to the military without informing Netanyahu, causing friction within the Israeli leadership. Turkish President Erdogan has hinted that the NATO nation may enter Israel to end the ongoing Gaza war, marking the latest in a series of inflammatory statements against Israel. And this comes amid escalating Israel-Hezbollah tensions and the ongoing war in Gaza. In response, Israeli ministers slammed the Turkish president and issued warnings to Erdogan. The foreign ministers of Australia, Japan, India, and the US appealing for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza in this joint statement following a meeting of the Quad nations in the Japanese capital of Tokyo. The United States says it's working on a diplomatic solution along the border between Israel and Lebanon after the rocket attack. And the White House also agreed that Hezbollah was behind this horrific attack. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, in a phone call with Israeli President Isaac Herzog, has emphasized the importance of preventing escalation of the conflict. And Donald Trump and Kamala Harris entering the last 100 days of one of the fastest moving and least predictable campaign seasons in memory. After a historic month appended the 2024 presidential race, the ground has shifted under both political parties when President Biden's poor performance in his debate with Trump threw the Democratic Party into chaos and prompted Trump's team to eye an expanded electoral map. The race was rattled yet again after the former president survived an assassination attempt in Pennsylvania and just days later chose Ohio Senator J.D. Vance as his running mate and rallied the Republican Party at its convention in Milwaukee. And then just a week ago, when Biden announced his exit from the race and pointed to Kamala Harris as vice president as his successor, and within 36 hours, she had rallied the party behind her candidacy, locking down enough support from Democratic National Convention delegates to become the party's presumptive nominee. She's raised $200 million and signed up 170,000 new volunteers in the first week of her presidential campaign. And it is the 2024 presidential election now, exactly 99 days away following this historic month of political shakeups that appended the race. President Biden, who belatedly opted against seeking re-election, will pay a visit to the library of the last president to make the same difficult choice more than a half-century ago. His speech today at the LBJ Presidential Library is designed to mark the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act enacted under President Lyndon B. Johnson. But the visit has taken on very different symbolism in the 2 weeks it took to reschedule it after he had to cancel because he got COVID-19. The speech originally was set for the 15th of this month. We have, of course, several days of events honoring the life of longtime U.S. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas that are beginning today with the lawmaker lying in state in Houston City Hall, and President Biden scheduled to come to Houston this evening to pay his respects to Jackson Lee. And Vice President Kamala Harris will be in Houston for the same, and that'll be this Thursday. President Biden is proposing term limits and a binding code of conduct for the Supreme Court justices, as well as a constitutional amendment to eliminate presidential immunity. His push for reforms allows the Supreme Court rulings against his agenda on abortion, immigration, student loans, vaccine mandates, and climate change. A strict abortion law, meanwhile, is set to take effect in Iowa today, preventing most abortions after about 6 weeks of pregnancy. And that's roughly when a fetal heartbeat can be detected, or possibly before many women know that they are pregnant. The largest wildfire burning in California grew to more than 350,000 acres, but there was hope that progress in containing it as well as cool down will help defeat it. Cal Fire officials said the Park Fire had so far destroyed 134 structures as it marched northwards from Chico to spread from Butte to Tehama County. After 4 days of no containment, firefighters had the blaze 12% contained as of yesterday. A new diagnostic blood test for Alzheimer's disease was found to correctly identify the condition around 90% of the time, outperforming specialist assessments based on physical and cognitive symptoms. Said this breakthrough offers a potential tool to accurately diagnose the disease and at earlier stages of development. Alzheimer's, ladies and gentlemen, affects almost 7 million Americans, yet remains notoriously difficult to diagnose. Stargazers will want to take note as the southern Delta Aquarids meteor shower and the Alpha Capricornids meteor shower are both set to peak this week. According to the American Meteor Society, the galactic light shows both arrived earlier this month but will begin to peak this week. The larger Delta Aquarids meteor show arrived on the 18th and visible till the 21st of next month, but will peak this week. And weeks after Hurricane Beryl caused devastating damage in the Caribbean and knocked out power to millions in southeast Texas, a new disturbance is brewing in the tropics. The National Hurricane Center is tracking a system in the central Atlantic that shows signs it could develop momentum. Plumes of dust made of sand and particle minerals from Africa's Sahara Desert and extremely dry air have hindered thunderstorm activity and tropical cyclone formation in the Atlantic over the last month. And a lawyer of a powerful Mexican drug cartel leader who is now in the U.S. custody pushed back against claims that his client was tricked into flying into the country, saying he was forcibly kidnapped by the son of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Venezuela's authoritarian president, Nicolas Maduro, has won a third term in office. He won 51% of the votes, beating opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez, who secured about 44%. He was declared the winner of the country's national elections. And Russian President Putin has congratulated him on securing this third term in a disputed election that was held over the weekend. Russian President Putin, meanwhile, has issued a chilling warning, threatening to restart the production of intermediate-range nuclear missiles if the U.S. goes ahead with its plan to deploy missiles in Europe. Russian President Putin has said that the U.S. and Germany's decision to deploy U.S. long-range missiles in Germany from 2026 is reminiscent of the events of the Cold War and could see Russia station similar missiles in response. Russian forces have overrun 2 frontline villages, according to a Ukrainian army sergeant this morning, after relentless assaults that are part of a Kremlin summer push to overwhelm battlefield defenses in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region. Ukraine said it hit out a Tu-22 M3 supersonic bomber, a record-breaking 1,100 miles from its borders. And Ukraine said it struck an oil depot in southern Russia that supplies the Kremlin's troops as Russia strikes in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region, where Moscow claimed further gains. Paris Olympics organizers said they were really sorry if any offense was caused by their daring and quirky opening ceremony, while denying any intention to disrespect religion after complaints from French bishops. Some Catholic groups and French bishops have condemned what they saw as scenes of derision and mockery of Christianity in the parade on Friday that was choreographed by theater director Thomas jolly. Criticism focused on a scene involving dancers, drag queens, and a DJ in poses that recalled depictions of the Last Supper, the final meal that Jesus is said to have taken with his apostles. It is one of the striking moments of the ceremony where a woman holding a bloodied, severed head and intended to be executed, French Queen Marie Antoinette, appeared in a window of the Conciergerie, a building where she was imprisoned after the French Revolution, and later guillotined along with her husband, Louis XVI. Reactions mixed towards this unprecedented ceremony, the first time a Summer Olympics has opened outside of the main athletics stadium. And of course, Quebec-born singer Celine Dion, who brought the curtain down with a solo performance from the Eiffel Tower, emerged as the most notable feature of the parade when respondents were asked what they remembered. French President Macron said the ceremony had made our compatriots extremely proud. Around 300,000 spectators watched from the river banks, often at a cost of hundreds, sometimes thousands of euros. And the Olympics triathlon swimming training session scheduled yesterday has been called after recent heavy rain in Paris affected pollution levels in the Seine. A lot is riding on Olympic triathletes being cleared to swim in Paris's central waterway when the competition kicks off this Tuesday, with France investigating in new wastewater infrastructure to cut sewage levels and make the river swimmable for residents as a key legacy of the Games. The French government says multiple telecommunication lines have been hit by acts of vandalism, affecting fiber lines and fixed and mobile phones as cities around France are hosting events for the Paris Olympics. Dozens of people have been arrested in France for wanting to disrupt the Olympic Games, and security forces arrested nearly 50 people who wanted to carry out sabotage actions or radical protests. France's acting Secretary of State for Digital Affairs in a post said the damage affected local access to cable, landline, and mobile services. And today is day 3 of the Paris 2024 Olympics, with 19 medals up for grabs, including in swimming and men's gymnastics. The U.S. men's swimming team won Team USA's first gold medal of the year for the 100-meter freestyle relay. LeBron James and Kevin Durant, recovering from a calf injury, helped defeat Serbia 110-84. And the U.S. women's soccer team, meanwhile, defeated Germany 4-1, while defending champion Canada suffered a penalty over a spying scandal involving drones. Separately, Simone Biles, the world's most decorated gymnast, notched the highest all-round score in yesterday's qualifying round, becoming the first woman to land there at the Olympics. Her teammate and defending Olympic all-round champion Suni Lee will seek to make history by performing a full twister jagger on the uneven bars. And several athletes have delivered standout performances at the Olympics, but the U.S. in particular brought the star power to the Paris Games. LeBron James led Team USA to this emphatic win over Serbia, and Simone Biles fought through a calf injury in a triumphant return to Olympic gymnastics. She competed for the first time at the Paris Games in yesterday's qualifying after tweaking her left leg during warm-ups on floor exercises. But that discomfort didn't stop her and her teammates from earning the top score in all but one of the 4 events, which puts them through to the final, which is on Tuesday. And then also for Nick Fink, a long time coming, which only made it sweeter. The 31-year-old swimmer who splits time at the pool with a full-time engineering job claimed the first Olympic medal of his late-blooming career last night. He tied for the silver medal in the 100-meter breaststroke with British great Adam Peaty just 0.02 of a second behind winner Niccolò Martinighi of Italy. He is from Dallas, and his wife is the swimming coach at SMU. Berlin's 46th Pride demonstration kicked off as hundreds of thousands of people supporting the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender communities took to the streets of the German capital. Organizers expecting 500,000 people to march through Berlin under the motto, "Together we take a stand, democracy needs diversity." And Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has rejected the European Commission's criticism of the state of the rule of law in her country in a letter to the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen published in Rome. She leads the far-right party Brothers of Italy, declared her commitment to full respect for the fundamental values on which the European Union is based. A coalition of armed groups in Mali's predominantly Tuareg north claimed that it killed dozens of government soldiers and Russian mercenaries from the Wagner group in a battle near the border with Algeria. And an international rights group today accused a paramilitary group in war-torn Sudan of sexual violence against women, including rape, gang rape, and forced and child marriage. A smaller number of incidents were also attributed to the military. Human Rights Watch calling for the UN and the African Union to establish a joint mission to protect civilians in Sudan, as more than 15 months of fighting between the military and the paramilitary rapid support forces has shown no signs of abating. Former South African President Jacob Zuma expelled from his former African National Congress party today after he formed a new political party that contested the country's recent elections. The Disciplinary Committee of South Africa, ruling ANC, has decided to expel the former president for leading this rival group. And Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei gave his official endorsement of Dr. Masoud Pezeshkian as the country's 9th president following snap elections won by the reformist camp's candidate, and the new reformist president due to be sworn in before parliament tomorrow. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has regained weight and is suffering from obesity-related health problems, including high blood pressure and diabetes, and his officials are looking for new medicines abroad to treat them. The 40-year-old, known for heavy drinking and smoking, comes from a family with a history of heart problems. Both his father and grandfather, who ruled North Korea before his 2011 inheritance of power, died of heart issues. United States will overhaul its military forces in Japan as the two countries move to deepen defense cooperation. Washington and Tokyo said in this sweeping step to modernize their alliance in the face of mounting security threats in Asia. And Quad is calling for respecting sovereignty, territorial integrity of nations, and no country should dominate others. Tokyo, in a loud and clear message to China, the Quad reaffirmed its steadfast commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific and resolve to work towards a region where no country dominates others and each state is free from coercion in all its forms. The grouping, comprising India, the US, Japan, and Australia, after a meeting of their foreign ministers, announced a plan to expand its ambitious maritime domain awareness program to the Indian Ocean region that would facilitate monitoring the strategic waters. Without directly naming China, expressing serious concern of the situation in the East and South China Seas, and reiterating the Quad's strong opposition to any unilateral actions that seek to change the status quo by force or coercion. The Philippines Foreign Ministry accused China of mischaracterizing an arrangement between them that allowed the unimpeded resupply of Filipino troops stationed on a beached naval vessel in the South China Sea. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the World News on Community Radio Networks. And External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar ruled out a third-party mediation for India to resolve its issues with China. We have views on China based on our experience, and our relations are not doing very well, he said. In 2020, during the COVID, China brought a very large force to the border areas between India and China in violation of agreements that we had with China, and the consequences of that continue as the issue has not been fully resolved. He was speaking to the foreign ministers of the Quad countries. And Captain Chamari Atapathu's blistering 50 combined well with the solid half-century of Harshita Samaravikrama as Sri Lanka carved an 8-wicket win over defending champions India to bag their maiden Women's T20 Asia Cup title yesterday. This is the second time in 9 Asia Cup editions across formats that India have lost a final. Manu Bhakar's coach, Jaspal Rana, reacted to her historic bronze medal win at the Paris Olympics. Indian shooter Manu Bhakar made history by becoming the first Indian woman to secure a shooting medal at the Summer Games. And in a fiery address during the monsoon session of Parliament, opposition leader Rahul Gandhi criticizes Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman for omitting the critical issue of paper leaks in her budget speech. Highlighting over 70 cases of paper leaks in the past decade, he expressed concern over the impact on on youth and the integrity of exams. He also accused the BJP-led central government of forming a Chakravyuh, an impregnable war formation mentioned in the epic Mahabharata, around the youth, farmers, women, and small businesses. Addressing the House, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi said 6 people were at the center of what he called the Lotus, BJP symbol formation: Narendra Modi, Amit Shah, Mohan Bhagwat, Ajit Doval, Mukesh Ambani, and Gautam Adani. Delhi police arrested the driver of an SUV who allegedly waded through the waterlogged road and contributed to breaking the gates of Rao's IAS coaching center in Old Rajendra Nagar, where 3 UPSC aspirants died due to flooding. The driver among those 5 who were arrested by Delhi police, including owners of the basement space where the coaching center was being run. And heavy rain hit parts of Gujarat today, with the Indian Meteorological Department predicting continued rainfall until tomorrow. And the Weather Department issued an orange rain alert for certain states in central and northwestern India. After a period of intense heat, Srinagar in Jammu and Kashmir experienced heavy rainfall today, the Weather Department predicting that the rain would persist until the 2nd of August. And the Rajasthan government has included the celebration of the abrogation of the Constitution's Article 370, which stripped Jammu and Kashmir of its semi-autonomous status, as Swarnamukta Divas, the birthdays of Hindutva ideologue Vinayak Damodar Savarkar and 16th century Mewar ruler Maharana Pratap. All these in the annual calendar, and this has sparked a fresh political row. French climber Benjamin Verdrin submitted the 8,611-meter tall K2 peak in record time a day ago, reaching the top of the world's second highest mountain in just 11 hours. The 32-year-old specialist in high-speed ascents made without the aid of oxygen left the K2 base camp just midnight on Saturday and reached the summit 10 hours, 59 minutes and 59 seconds later. Commonwealth Secretary-General Patricia Scotland hailed Pakistan's resilience, passion and determination in the last 2 years as it dealt with the challenges and damage inflicted by the super floods of 2022. She was addressing a joint press conference with Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq Dar in Islamabad and referred to the terrible events of 2 years ago. At least 3 people dead and several injured after participants of a Balochistan Yakjahati committee protest slashed with security personnel in different areas of the province. But despite roadblocks put in place by the authorities, a large number of people managed to make their way from across the province to Gwadar's Marine Drive for the Baloch Raji Muchi gathering, which is the national gathering of Balochs. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in the world of news for you. I do have your financial news coming up in a separate segment. Stay with me right here on Community Radio Networks. Let's go ahead and get you now all the financial news that you need to know to take on your day today, which is Monday, the 29th of July. The Dow is set to pick up on its rally today as U.S. stock futures rose ahead of a big week filled with Federal Reserve rate decisions, the jobs report, the big tech earnings. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures moved up roughly 0.4%, coming off a surge of over 650 points for the blue chip index. S&P 500 futures also added 0.4%, while contracts on the tech-heavy Nasdaq 100 were up roughly 0.6%. Stocks are set to kick the week off on the front foot after surging last Friday as investors welcomed a promising inflation reading that cemented bets for interest rate cuts. Bitcoin touched the highest level since mid-June after Donald Trump expanded his pro-crypto agenda and as expectations for U.S. Federal Reserve interest rate cuts bolstered investor sentiment. The largest digital asset rose as much as 2.7% today and changed hands at $69,645 early this morning. Bitcoin is about 4,400 below a record of nearly 74,000 that it hit in March. The U.S. homeowners insurance market has encountered its worst underwriting results since at least 2000, with population shifts into regions increasingly prone to weather-related events playing a significant role. It is the migration to prone areas which is adding to U.S. homeowners insurers' performance volatility. In reporting highlights a staggering $15.2 billion underwriting loss for last year. McDonald's customers tightening their belts again in the second quarter as they grapple with paying up for their Big Mac. This morning, the company reported second quarter earnings that missed Wall Street estimates across revenue, earnings, and same-store sales, proving not even America's most dominant fast food player is immune to the challenging macro conditions. For the quarter, which ended on the 30th of June, McDonald's reported revenue of $6.49 billion, up 2.01% year over year, compared to estimates of $6.63 billion. Lowe said that James Tisch will hand over the CEO role to his son after 25 years at the helm, and the company also reported a 2.5% jump in its quarterly profit, helped by a rise in insurance premiums and higher returns on its investments, and the group's stock price was up 4% in pre-market trading this morning. Apple has reached a tentative collective bargaining contract with the first unionized company store in the country. The International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers Coalition of Organized Retail Employees, which represents the employees at a retail location in Maryland, announced that it struck this 3-year deal with the company that will increase pay by an average of 10% and offer other benefits to workers. In a fresh broadside against one of the world's most popular technology companies, the Justice Department in Washington, D.C., accusing TikTok of harnessing the capability to gather bulk information on users based on views on divisive social issues like gun control, abortion, and religion. This week, 2 different types of scooters were recalled due to safety risks, but the Consumer Product Safety Commission included our 7,300 Razor Icon electric scooters and 4,200 Hover One Dynamo e-scooters. The Razor scooters were recalled because the down tube of the recalled electric scooter can separate from the floorboard during use, posing a falling hazard. Impacted scooters were sold at Target, Walmart, Best Buy, and other stores nationwide, and online at Amazon.com, Walmart.com, Razor.com, and other websites from September of 2022 through March of this year for about $600 a piece. Black, blue, orange, pink, and red, all manufactured in China in those colors. The number of U.S. cities where first-time home buyers are faced with at least $1 million price tag on the average entry-level home has nearly tripled in the past 5 years. A report indicating that a typical starter home is now worth $1 million or more in 237 cities, which is up from 84 cities in the year 2019. Boar's Head has announced that they are recalling more than 207,000 pounds of deli meat, including ham and liverwurst products sold nationwide due to potential Listeria monocytogenes contamination. The announcement comes after a testing conducted at a store in Maryland was found positive for Listeria. So this is the Boar's Head, that brand of deli meat. A new alert from the Food and Drug Administration said it had identified an additional cinnamon product sold in the U.S. that has been contaminated with lead. FDA testing found that cinnamon had elevated levels of lead at 20 parts per million. July isn't over yet, but back-to-school anxiety is already creeping in for both students and their parents, in particular parents concerned this year about the cost of school supplies. Survey results released this week showed that 70% of parents believe that schools ask them to buy too much during back-to-school season. According to Deloitte's 2024 back-to-school survey, parents expect to spend $586 on school supplies per child this year, down $11 compared to last year. And every Friday, it is this bar owner who gets the same customer request, alcohol please. And every time someone asks for a vodka tonic or another familiar well drink, he has to be gently reminded, this bar serves no alcohol. Sober bars are finding their footing as mocktails and alcohol-free drinks rise in popularity. This is the Sands Bar in Austin, Texas, where the cocktails aren't the star, but the customers are. Sober bars, social hubs without alcohol. The Merc with the Mouth is back on the big screen, and he's a marvel. Directed by Sean Levy in close collaboration with franchise mastermind and star Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool and Wolverine opened to a record-shattering $205 million at the domestic box office, landing the 8th biggest opening of all time among any film and by far the biggest launch for an R-rated film not adjusted for inflation. The first Deadpool was the previous record holder at 133.7. Robert Downey Jr. stunned fans as he removed a mask during Saturday's San Diego Comic-Con Hall H panel, revealing that the Iron Man actor will rejoin the franchise as one of Marvel's biggest villains named Dr. Doom. Apple TV boots up Cowboy Cartel. The four-part documentary series chronicles the story of a rookie FBI agent who uncovered a massive money laundering operation in American horse racing that was led by one of Mexico's most ruthless cartels. And it is M. Night Shyamalan back with Trap, starring Josh Hartnett as a father who takes his teen daughter to a pop star's concert. And of course, this being a Shyamalan film, you can expect many twists, the first of which is that dear old dad is a serial killer. Trap is the name of the movie. It opens on Friday, being released by Warner Brothers Pictures. The GM Arlington Assembly held a party at its plant to mark 70 years along Highway 360. The plant will also mark completion of its 13 millionth car. The manager of the plant says they now produce 60 cars per hour, up from 50 years ago. And now the plant added a third shift and produced 34,000 cars last year. Arlington Assembly produces full-size SUVs, including for the Cadillac, Chevrolet, and GMC brands. GM says the 13 millionth car was an Escalade V. GM currently working on a $500 million expansion of this Arlington plant. Pinnacle Bank, Texas, took possession of Fort Worth's tallest tower after foreclosing on one of the loans tied to the office building in early May. But that's far from the end of the story. Multiple lawsuits are working through the courts. A Fort Worth real estate pro officially says understands how to build in the city, just purchased a former country club on the east side of Cowtown. Now he has to figure out what to do with it. And we wonder if this concrete in downtown Dallas may be your next home. Brokers say it's possible. Investors now have the chance to buy the majority of a Dallas icon, which could open the building to a partial conversion into apartments. Tides Equities made the big bet on purchasing and renovating older apartment properties across DFW, and some properties are facing foreclosure threats from lenders. NBC Sports announced that the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics broadcast was viewed by 28.6 million viewers between NBC and Peacock. That made it the most viewed opening ceremony since the 2012 Games in London. And France's first cheese museum has opened in Paris, right in time for the Olympic Games being held in the City of Light. The Musée du Fromage is billed as an educational and interactive space for discovering France's cheese-making heritage and regions. Its founder, created with the purpose of keeping the art of cheese-making alive in France, boasts 56 regional varieties made from cow, sheep, and goat milk. Maybe you want to escape the winter months at home, opting instead to take care of your business on a laptop from the comfort of your rented Phuket villa as you gaze over the Andaman Sea. Or perhaps you're ready to step into the ring and embark on a new career as a Thai fighter. Either way, Thailand has you covered. The popular Southeast Asian destination recently introduced a new 5-year visa targeted at remote workers and other travelers looking to stay in the kingdom for extended periods. India's digital economy is poised to constitute a fifth of GDP by 2026 from 1/10 at present. In the forward of report on currency and finance for the year 23-24, Reserve Bank Governor Shaktikant Das emphasized that digitization in finance is paving the way for next-generation banking and improving access to financial services at affordable cost. India is at the forefront of the digital revolution. There are struggles for old tankers transporting Russian oil to India, and former Rockwell Collins chief Boeing is being considered for Boeing's CEO. Chennai Super Kings ownership has not been affected as Ultratech acquires India's cements, and after setbacks, more exploration of Jammu and Kashmir lithium blocks likely before another auction. We have Ultratech acquiring India cement, and India needs to strive to be the $30 trillion economy per capita, according to a NITI document. As India ramps up its FTAs, a new system in the works to stop concessions misuse is being introduced. Ola Electric is going to launch its IPO next week, valuation at around $4.4 billion. The Sensex has gained over 1,200 points today, and the Nifty has ended at record highs. And the private banks, they say, are not lending enough to corporates, and that is a concern. The government is going to form an interministerial core group on employment, which is an integration of jobs data. And SEBI is banning the fugitive bizman Vijay Mallya from securities market for 3 years. Indigo leasing 6 Boeing 737 MAX planes from Qatar Airways to operate Doha flights. And after budget duty cuts, Apple announcing price drop across its iPhone range, affecting India also. Revelations in CBI's excise policy case charge sheet, where TDP MP's request to Arvind Kejriwal for the 90 to 100 crore rupee kickback that was paid to the Aam Aadmi Party. And multi-bagger stock has risen 7% on proposal for special dividends. And if you fail to file your income tax returns before the 31st of this month, there will be lists that will be going wrong there for the taxpayers. Kansal Nerolac Paints is net profit at 231 crores, and Adani Wilmar shares have risen 7%, and WazirX was hacked as the crypto exchange, explaining controversial loss-sharing plan after $230 million hack. The government is forming this interministerial core group on employment integration and jobs data. Digital payments have risen 12.6% at the end of March this year. The Delhi High Court directed Yoga Guru Ramdev to take down within 3 days content and posts claiming that Coronil can cure COVID-19 and that it was not just an immunity booster, while questioning the efficacy of allopathy against the pandemic. The court passed its verdict on a plea of the Delhi Medical Association, which said Ramdev's company was propagating false information about this. The Bombay High Court imposed a cost of 4 crore rupees on Patanjali Ayurved Limited for the alleged breach of a 23 interim order that restrained the company from selling its camphor products in relation to a trademark infringement case that was filed by Mangalam Organics Limited. This was in addition to the 50 lakh rupees the High Court had directed the company to deposit earlier this month. In August of last year, the High Court, in an interim order, had prohibited Patanjali from selling or advertising its camphor products. Global credit rating Fitch today upgraded Pakistan's long-term foreign currency issuer default rating to CCC Plus from CCC on the back of the country's deal with the International Monetary Fund. Pakistan has sought the reprofiling of more than $27 billion in debt and liabilities with friendly nations China, Saudi Arabia and the UAE to secure a 37-month IMF bailout package and ease energy sector foreign exchange outflows as well as consumer tariffs. And the State Bank of Pakistan announced it had decided to cut the interest rate by 100 basis points to 19.5% from the previous rate of 20%. 12.5. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in the financial news for you, but I do have the final segment of your program coming up next. This is the final segment of our program today. As we get this week started for you, it is the 29th of July. North Texas has had 12 straight days with below average temperatures. So the average high temperature for this time of the year is actually 97 degrees. After the middle of August, temperatures will trend downwards until September. Now today, a strong upper level area of high pressure slowly nosing its way towards North Texas this entire week. And that means no rain, increasing temperatures, and more heat advisories. Afternoon highs today reaching to the mid to upper 90s, near 100 tomorrow, and 100 to 103 degrees on Wednesday, all the way through Friday. And as the weekend will near, the ridge of high pressure may back off to the west a bit, allowing a northerly flow to develop in the upper levels of the atmosphere. If it does, a weak cold front may settle into the area, producing some scattered late-day showers, but it will also be a few degrees cooler if that happens. But right now, get ready for close to 100-degree temperatures, and we are under a heat advisory. On the 29th of July, 1909, the newly formed General Motors Corporation, GM, acquires the country's leading luxury automaker, the Cadillac Automobile Company, for $4.5 million. Cadillac, which was founded out of the ruins of automotive pioneer Henry Ford's second failed company, his third effort, the Ford Motor Company, had finally succeeded. And when the shareholders of the defunct Henry Ford Company called in Detroit machinist Henry Leland to assess the company's assets for their planned sale, he convinced them to stay in business. His idea was to combine Ford's latest chassis with a similar cylinder engine developed by Oldsmobile, another early automaker. And to that end, the Cadillac Car Company, named after the French explorer Antoine Lomet de la Mothe Cadillac, who founded the city of Detroit, was founded, and Leyland introduced the first Cadillac, priced at $850 at the New York Auto Show that following year. And General Motors buys this company, Cadillac, on today's date in the year 1909. And of course, over the years, Cadillac has maintained its reputation for luxury and innovation. It was the first automaker to provide power steering and automatic windshield washers as standard equipment on all its vehicles in 1954. And though the brand was knocked out of its top-of-the-market position in the 1980s by Mercedes-Benz, it sought to re-establish itself during the following decades and remains a leader in the luxury car market. In the early hours of today's date in the year 1914, Tsar Nicholas II of Russia and his first cousin Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany begin a frantic exchange of telegrams regarding the newly erupted war in the Balkan region and the possibility of its escalation into a general European war. A day prior, Austria-Hungary had declared war on Serbia, a month after the assassination of Sarajevo of the Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife by a Serbian nationalist. And in the wake of those killing, Germany promised Austria-Hungary its unconditional support in whatever punitive action it chose to take towards Serbia, regardless of whether or not Serbia's powerful ally Russia stepped into that conflict. So both of them, Kaiser Wilhelm and Tsar Nicholas, exchanged these frantic telegrams trying to avoid World War I. But we all know that did not happen. On the 29th of July 1921, Adolf Hitler becomes the leader of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, called the Nazi Party. Under him, grew into a mass movement and ruled Germany as a totalitarian state from 1933 to 1945. And it was Adolf Hitler who became the leader of that Nazi Party on today's date in 1921. The U.S. Congress passes a legislation establishing NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, a civilian agency responsible for coordinating America's activities in space. It happened on today's date in the year 1958, and NASA has since sponsored space expeditions, both human and mechanical, that have yielded vital information about the solar system and the universe, and also launched numerous Earth-orbiting satellites that have been instrumental in everything from weather forecasting to navigation to global communications. The first 4,000 paratroopers of the 101st Airborne Division arrive in Vietnam, landing at Cam Ranh Bay, and they made a demonstration jump immediately after arriving, observed by General William Westmoreland, the outgoing ambassador, Maxwell Taylor. And Taylor and Westmoreland were both former commanders of that division, which was known as the Screaming Eagles. The 101st Airborne Division has a long and storied history. It was that date, today's date, the 29th of July 1965, that this division arrived in Vietnam, suffered almost 20,000 soldiers killed or wounded in action in Vietnam, over twice as many as the 9,328 casualties that it suffered in World War II. A fire on a United States Navy carrier stationed off the coast of Vietnam killed 134 service members on today's date in 1967, and that deadly fire on the USS Forrestal began with the accidental launch of a rocket. During the Vietnam War, the USS Forrestal was often stationed off the coast of North Vietnam conducting combat operations, and on that morning, the ship was preparing to attack when a rocket from one of its own F-4 Phantom jet fighters was accidentally launched. The rocket streaked across the deck and hit a parked Skyhawk jet. The Skyhawk, which was waiting for takeoff, was piloted by John McCain, the future senator from Arizona. He narrowly escaped the fire and afterwards volunteered for duty on the USS Oriskany. 3 months later, his plane was shot down over North Vietnam and he was taken prisoner, not released until 5.5 years later in 1973. On the 29th of July in 1967, the Doors' song, Light My Fire, from their debut album, earns the top spot on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming the first bona fide smash hit and propelling the Doors from cult favorites of the rock cognoscenti into international pop stars and avatars of the 60s counterculture. By the beginning of the year, 1967, the Doors were well-established members of the Los Angeles music scene. The house band and the Whiskey A Go-Go on the Sunset Strip had built this large local following and strong industry buzz. They scored their first #1 hit with this song, Light My Fire, on today's date in 1967. And then, ladies and gentlemen, nearly 1 billion television viewers in 74 countries tune in to witness the marriage of Prince Charles, heir to the British throne, to Lady Diana Spencer, a young English kindergarten teacher's assistant. Married in a grand ceremony at the St. Paul's Cathedral in the presence of 2,650 guests, the couple was, for that moment at least, the envy of the world. Their first child, Prince William, was born in 1982, and their second, Prince Harry, in 1984. It was 1 billion television viewers in 74 different countries tuning in to witness this wedding. Of course, it was the Archbishop of Canterbury who blessed the union on behalf of the Church of England, and that was a separate ceremony where an estimated 750 guests attended the event at St. George's Chapel in Windsor, and of course attended by both of Charles' parents, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. They got married on today's date in 1981. And in 1996, on today's date, track and field legend Carl Lewis wins his 4th consecutive Olympic gold medal in the long jump, the 9th and final Olympic gold of his storied career. And on 29th of July in the year 2000, Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston, one of Hollywood's highest profile couples, marry at Malibu in California, estate of the producer Marcy Carsey of The Cosby Show. The two reportedly met on a blind date in 1998 and quickly became favorites of the tabloid media once they went public with their romance. Their wedding cost an estimated $1 million and featured tight security to keep out the paparazzi. Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston were also wed on today's date in the year 2000. Ladies and gentlemen, those were some stories from the annals of history. And also, that's my show for today. We have all the information ready for you to take on the day now. And for those who would like to reach me directly, my number is 214-675-1754.